Am I the asshole for not helping my former stepmom and step-siblings after my dad's death? My dad died relatively recently and didn't have much left in terms of assets. He had remarried to Ruth, but I, now 32, was already an adult and don't really consider his wife my stepmom. While she technically got his belongings, they weren't much after paying his outstanding debts. I, however, was his life insurance beneficiary, which was $500K. We've checked with lawyers, there's nothing she can do, as it was a policy he had updated in the last year, and at least where we live life insurance is treated separate from inheritance. He married a significantly younger woman who has 2 kids in high school. He was paying the lion's share of the bills, but they didn't have a college fund. Now Ruth is asking me to give her money for living expenses as well as enough for both of her kids to go through college. Personally, I don't think it ever should have been my dad's job to provide for her kids, and I've never felt close to them. Now that I'm beginning my own life, my wife and I would like to use the funds to pay off what's left of our student loan debts, a down payment for a house as well as a little cushion. Ruth says I'm being selfish, but I just think given the fact that he set up me as the beneficiary as recently as he did, I'm following his wishes by using it to advance my life. Ruth brings up the fact that I don't have kids while my dad had step-kids, but my wife and I would like to if when this pandemic ever ends, so we want to keep the cushion for that. I also paid for college myself through loans and scholarships, so I don't really sympathize with them not having a college fund. It's been a hell of a year and I'm about to just block Ruth because it feels like harassment at this point, but I'm curious what people from a third-party perspective think. I will try my best to respond to info posts. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up overnight. By far the majority are telling me I'm in the right, which reassures me. I'm done responding to comments, but there's been some common questions. To address some common themes, they didn't get absolutely nothing, just not a ton. She'll likely be able to continue her lifestyle for about 6 to 12 months, then she'll have to downsize her lifestyle. The stepkids are freshmen and sophomores in high school. Their dad is not absent, he has split custody. He's just not much of an earner, and my understanding is he doesn't pay child support due to 50-50 custody. College-wise, I don't care since they can get scholarships, financial aid, student loans. That's what I had and did just fine. If they were going to be homeless, I'd help out, but I paid all funeral burial costs, and after how entitled she acted, my wife and I decided to just leave them in the past and move on. She can adjust her lifestyle or try to find someone else to take care of her again. Not the asshole, and don't give her a cent. You were his bio child and he tried to provide for you. If he wanted to provide for his wife and her kids, he would have. Tell her that if she doesn't stop harassing you, you'll get a restraining order and use that money to have a good life, mate.
Not the asshole. Your father clearly intended for you to receive the money. And if getting her kids' college paid for is a worry for her, why isn't she contacting their actual father? Not the asshole. Your dad would have known what he was doing by naming you as the beneficiary of his policy. He was setting up to provide for his kid. Your step-siblings' biological parents can pay for their education. Edit. Please don't feel guilty about the money. Sorry for your loss. Not the asshole. Louder for the people in the back. Not the asshole. Take the money and take care of yourself and your wife. Period. Full stop. The end.
Not the asshole. You should prioritize paying your college loans over paying for college for your dad's wife's kids' college. Ruth married a much older man. If her financial security was important, she should probably have discussed that with him. The fact that your father intentionally made you the beneficiary to the policy somewhat recently, and made no plans for Ruth, leads me to believe the relationship wasn't going well. Your father was obviously thinking about his plans for after he passed and intentionally didn't provide for Ruth. Barring your father asking you to share with Ruth, there's absolutely no reason you should do so. Not the asshole. The kids are her responsibility, and as you said, your dad made the insurance updates very recently, and if the stepkid's dad is in the picture, he should be helping, not you.
Not the asshole. But, if I were in your shoes, I would help out the widow to make sure she and her kids are housed and fed until she can figure things out. The college educations would be on them. It is a bigger mitzvah to help out a stranger, or even someone you don't like, than to help someone you love.
NTA, your dad must have had his reasons for leaving the life insurance to you. Use it wisely and make him proud.
Not the asshole your dad set it up that way after he married Ruth. She has brass balls to ask for living expenses and a full ride for her 2 kids. Sounds like your dad wanted you to have something to make your life easier. Run with it.
Info: how long were they married? Did he adopt the kids? What did they call him? Dad, John, etc.? While she technically got his belongings, they weren't much after paying his outstanding debts. I, however, was his life insurance beneficiary, which was $500K. You are not the asshole, but I think your dad may have been. It doesn't make sense to me why someone would take on the role of the primary breadwinner and create a life insurance policy which doesn't name their primary dependents. You have no obligation to give your dad's widow or their kids money, but it would be nice of you to do so. I wouldn't necessarily hold her behavior against her since I'm sure she is going through a lot of grief and anxiety right now.
Not the asshole. Your dad provided for you. If he wanted it any other way he would have organized for it to be so.
Not the asshole. If dad had wanted her to have the insurance money for her kids, he would have named her as beneficiary. As you said, why should you pay for their college when you took out loans? Don't just block her, take out a restraining order if you must.
Not the asshole. Also, I've worked as an estates paralegal for over 30 years and her behavior is way out of that norm. Keep it and enjoy it.
Not the asshole. But please talk to financial advisor and the estate lawyer. Get all your duckies in a row before you spend any of that money. $500,000 can change your life.
Nah. I'm sorry for your loss. I understand why Ruth feels owed, but the fact your dad recently decided he wanted the life insurance for you makes me wonder if he knew something. Maybe the stepkids' dad or grandparents have money. Maybe they were jerks to him, etc. etc. Usually favoritism is awful. But with steps, they can be everything from as close a biological kid or closer to being someone a person never met. Or kids who maybe come every other week and complain dad is richer and cooler and just because he's banging mom doesn't mean I have to care about him. There's no legal obligation here and I'm not sure there's any moral one. Not the asshole. Your father knew she was an entitled asshole and that she would try to get everything. That's why he gave you something she would not be able to take away from you. Cause let's be real, when he married her he knew she probably was in it for the money.
Not the asshole. It sounds like your dad spent a lot of money supporting his new wife and her 2 kids. He could have spent that money helping you pay for college or giving you money for a down payment on a house or starting a college fund for kids you might have someday. Maybe that's why he made you the sole beneficiary of the life insurance policy. He could have easily given the new wife a cut, but he didn't. This isn't to say you definitely shouldn't give her something. I don't know all the details.
Info: has she tried to go after the money legally when she found out it wasn't going to her? Did she expect to get everything and you zilch?
Dad for not discussing this with his wife and leaving her in a lurch. Sounds like you for not sharing even a fraction of a massive amount of money, and Ruth for harassing you.
Not the asshole. Your dad made his wishes clear. Had he intended to provide for his stepchildren he would have done so.
Not the asshole. I would just block her and live your life. You are not responsible for her children.
Not the asshole. It's pretty cut and dry, especially since he recently updated or reaffirmed his beneficiary info. There's no argument that he would have given it to them but forgot to change it over. Also, Ruth says I'm being selfish, but I just think given the fact that he set up me as the beneficiary as recently as he did, I'm following his wishes by using it to advance my life. Ruth brings up the fact that I don't have kids. It doesn't matter that you don't have kids. You're the kid in this scenario. Your dad paid his life insurance to his kid. If he wanted to set up his wife and her kids, he would have. Depending on their life together and what they planned, he may be considered an R, but you certainly aren't. You're following his wishes. Keep that money.
Not the asshole. But from my perspective, part of what life insurance is for is to take care of outstanding debts and funeral arrangements. If she had to pay for his funeral out of whatever was left of the estate, I'd give her the money for that. That feels fair. The rest about college for her kids? No. Not the asshole, but you might want to consider giving her something out of the life insurance. Absolutely up to you with no obligation. If I were you, I'd take the money and invest it. The right investments might even cover the cost of your monthly loans, which is worth more than straight up paying them off. Talk to a financial planner though, as I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. Condolences on your father. Not the asshole. You're absolutely right. Your father made you the beneficiary for a reason. You don't have a relationship with them, you don't owe them anything.
Well, he was your dad for 32 years and willingly and consciously left the insurance money just for you. Those stepchildren are not your responsibility but their mothers and fathers. You can help them out a little bit now, but please keep the money, because it is the inheritance of your father. Use it for your family.
Not the asshole. Unless they had been married for less time than the amount of time that passed since he updated the policy, he obviously set it up the way he wanted.
Info: why isn't their bio dad stepping up? Also, how big is the age gap? Do you think your stepmother married your dad for money? How old is she and does she have her own job?
Not the asshole, and Ruth is disrespecting her deceased husband by pursuing this.
Not the asshole. Your dad married this woman, not you. Not the asshole. He updated his will recently, and if he wanted her to get the life insurance, he would have added her in. She should have been planning for her kids' college years ago.
Not the asshole. Your dad did this for a reason. Go with it.
Not the asshole. If your dad wanted her to have the money, he would have changed his beneficiary.
Not the asshole. You were better off blocking her. You do not owe her anything.
Not the asshole. If your father wanted them to benefit from the life insurance, he'd have designated them as beneficiaries.
Not the asshole. Like you said, your father very recently updated it. Don't feel bad. She should feel terrible for coming after you for money.
Not the asshole. But I would consult a lawyer to see if there's a tax savings realizations benefit you can play over their years at college. My fear is the damn thing turns into an obligation the moment $1 passes hands. Or worst, that obligation extends to her.
It would be one thing if she came to you in a different manner. Say, I know it's not my place to ask, but I'm really struggling. Would it be possible for you to help me with some bills till I can get back on my feet? That I would find acceptable. But I'm assuming that's not how she asked. And to ask for college funds? No, not the asshole. Personally, I don't think it ever should have been my dad's job to provide for her kids. I don't think that this is true. The guy married Ruth, he gets the kids. A story as old as time, he takes him on as well. I think that your father is absolutely an asshole for not providing for his wife and stepchildren after his death. If the assets he gave to them aren't worth anything, then he is both ignorant and an asshole. Is Ruth an asshole? I think her wanting some of her late husband's cash is a reasonable request. But harassing you about it is definitely an asshole move. Are you an asshole? Nah. You're good. Enjoy your money and don't let Ruth get to you. Sorry to hear about your father. Not the asshole. She should be talking to the kids' fathers if she wants their college paid for.
Not the asshole. If your dad wanted to leave life insurance money to Ruth and her kids, he would have done so when he recently updated his policy. No one is owed a college fund. Plenty of us had to contend with getting student loans. Sounds like your dad already did his share of supporting her kids. They are not entitled to your windfall. I'm sure your dad would want you to use it for your future. Sorry for your loss.
Not the asshole. My father remarried a few years ago. I'm 47. My first stepmom died 6 years ago. My new step-siblings are not going to inherit from my dad, and everyone understands this. My new stepmom will inherit a nice-sized amount from him, and she is free to distribute that as she wishes. Your stepmom and her kids' father are responsible for supporting them.
Not the asshole. Your dad made it clear with an updated policy that he wanted that money for you. He apparently didn't even pay for you to go to college, so it's really beyond me why she thinks you should pay for her kids to go to college. You are not being selfish, entitled, or any other negative adjective by not sharing the life insurance with her. NTA. Dealt with the same thing with my stepmom. My brother and I got the life insurance and she actually went through the courts to try and get some. Nothing she could do since she wasn't a beneficiary. I blocked her as soon as the legal process was done. I would suggest blocking her, it'll help you so much.
Not the asshole. Block her. It sure isn't your job to put her kids through college.
Not the asshole. She's not your wife and not your responsibility. Your dad made decisions about who would get what, and that entitles you, guilt-free, to that money. If she was particularly lovely to you, I'd suggest it would be awfully nice to send some her way. But you are certainly not obligated to it in any way. If you tell her no, clearly and definitively, and you continue to receive requests and messages from her and others about the money, you'd be justified in blocking them.
I think your dad wanted you to have his insurance money. No question in my mind. It is interesting that your dad set up his life insurance like he did. He had to realize he was leaving her with nothing. That said, you're not the asshole for keeping what's yours. I'm assuming they aren't destitute and have food to eat if she's talking about college expenses. I'm not even sure if giving her a little would stop her from asking for more. I would block her and move on. Your dad's choices were his own, as yours should be. NTA. The amount of stories I see on here of grown women expecting to be taken care of financially by a man. What year is it anyhow? Tell her to go get her child support from the bio dads and AJOB.